myself again, but it's the only way.
Good evening and welcome to Steve Wraith's podcast, where we have a Wraith rant. I can rant about anything you want. It's just me and you guys. I apologise for anybody tuning in who was expecting to see Mick Lowes. Mick, as you know, has had a bad bout of health recently. He's just been told by his doctor to rest a little bit tonight. So we've given Mick the night off. We'll wish him well. Hope he gets well soon. This can be about anything you want tonight, folks. It can be about Newcastle United. It can be about true crime. It can be about something you want to know about me. But we'll do it for an hour because I've got to get myself sorted and have an hour's breather before we get to the other podcast that I'm doing tonight at 8 o'clock. So Dave H, what happened to Mick Lowes? I've just explained, mate. He's not well. He's been told to rest. So we've really just got to hope that Mick, takes his time, gets his recovery right before we get him back on. So we send him our best wishes. All the best, Mick, says Staffy. Yeah, no, good evening, mate. Hope you're well. John, how are you, pal? Good to see you. Hope things are okay. Hope you're looking forward to New Year. Rachel, good evening. Hope everything's all right with you. White Creature, taking it away from football straight away. What are your thoughts about tonight at 9? Okay, well, at 9 o'clock tonight, Decker Heggie is going to launch something on his channel, which essentially is... it's a live, apparently, where he's going to show his much sought after paperwork, which should be interesting for everybody to see. Those of you who are Newcastle fans who've got no idea what we're going on about, just search Decker Heggie on YouTube and you will find out. I will be watching. I'm doing Paul Ellis's podcast between 8 and 9. I'm going to ask you, if you go to Paul Ellis's channel, just find Paul Ellis on YouTube and subscribe to him. But give it a watch tonight. We're going to be keeping off a lot of the contentious issues, and we're going to be speaking about me. He's going to ask us a few questions. Got no idea what he's going to be asking us, but Google Paul Ellis on YouTube, search Paul Ellis on YouTube, drop him a subscription. He was around about 560 subs. Be nice to get him up to 1,000 tonight. Anybody who is watching. John puts all the best, Mick, speedy recovery. Evening trolls, no problem, Dave. Dan, hope Mick's okay. Don, sorry, yeah, he's okay, mate. He's just got to take it easy. What he's had is it's not good. 2 seconds. It's not good. It's been impacted on his speech in particular and his brain patterns, and he's got to rest. He's maybe he's moved a bit too fast. We're not pushing him. Would love him to come back on, and he was keen to get back on. And I think his doctor had said it was good for him to get on and do broadcasts because it helps with the word assimilation or whatever it is that he has to do. But yeah, look, sometimes you can move too fast. It's a hectic period, Christmas for everybody as well. But I'm sure Mick will be back and fighting fit very soon. Barry Hogan, taking it back to football. He says, do you believe Trippier will sign in the next couple of days? Who would you like to see after him? I don't want Martial. Barry, hope you're well, mate. You know what? Trippier has been linked so much that I don't actually believe it's going to happen. And that's just my opinion. Anything that gets hammered in the papers is either because you've got an overzealous journalist who's had a tip-off, you've got an overzealous agent who wants to do well for his player, and he's going to go elsewhere, or it's a true story. But I stick with the same methods every time this transfer window opens, and that is, I believe it when I see it. And when I see them with the scarf like that on the pitch, I believe it. So ultimately, do I believe Trippier is nearly signed and a done deal because somebody says it on Twitter? No, I don't. Let's wait and see. Who would I like to see? I agree with you. I think Martial would be a waste of time. I'd like to see Lingard come in on loan. I think we'll have a bit of tough opposition bringing him in, but I'd love to have seen Lingard come in on loan. We needed a striker anyway. Depending on how long Wilson's out, we might need 2. We definitely need at least one centre-half and another full-back and a creative midfielder. The big question is, how much are Newcastle going to spend and how many players are they going to be able to attract? It's a big question. I'm not going to start speculating. I'll just say that me personally, if I was the owner of Newcastle United, I would bring a goalkeeper in the next 2 windows. Let's say January and the summer. I'll bring a new goalkeeper in to compete with Dubravka. I'll bring 2 centre-halves in and 2 full-backs, stroke wing-backs. I'd bring in at least one creative midfielder and one defensive midfielder, and I'd bring in 2 forwards. That's what I would do over the next 2 windows. Rachel says, all the best, Mick. Liz Reynolds says, are you watching Dekahegi at 9 o'clock? I'll be on Paul Ellis's podcast. But yeah, look, I will tune in. I will see what happens. And look, I had a message from Barry Mitch, the guy who came on when I did the podcast with Deca a couple of months ago now. This is the guy who came on and defended him and said that, as far as he was concerned, Deca was in the clear. Now, this guy's pals with me on Facebook, and I know who he is now, and got a good idea of what job he does. But he seems to think that we need to stop having a pop at Deca. I'm not having a pop at him. I'm giving my own opinion on him. I'm certainly not having a pop at him. He just needs to, show the paperwork, and I'm pretty sure that if he shows the paperwork, then things may change. Some people's views might change, but I think other people's views will always be the same. They won't want to be involved with Deca, and they'll want him off YouTube. So I will be watching. Liz, I think it'll be very interesting. I think this madness will continue. I think certain people will continue to batter him and hammer him. Me personally, I'm going to concentrate on making good content and move on. And I've already said on numerous podcasts over the last few weeks, my last words on the Conroy situation were with Video Craig, so he's got the exclusive on that. He's got a pretty conclusive video there once he gets it edited and put out. From my perspective, I'm going to be moving on. Got some great guests coming up over the next few weeks, and football wise, we're going to continue to go from strength to strength with NUFC matters. True crime wise, got some great guests on. I've done some great pre-records, and I've got one teed up. If you check, I think it's for the 8th of January. Got a great one lined up with Andy McNabb, the SAS soldier who's gone on to become a very successful book writer and script writer, etc. So, well worth a look. And I'm doing a live tomorrow afternoon with Lee Davies, who's got a fantastic story. He's a Newcastle fan, but Lee's also got a hell of a story. He's a former footballer, former fireman, former prison officer, and he turned to crime. So that's going to be fascinating for everybody to get involved in. So Lee Davies tomorrow, 2 till 3. It probably will extend because of the story. And we'll probably end up talking a little bit about football as well. But set a reminder for that because that will be an absolute belter. And we are giving you a little bit of football content tomorrow. The 3 amigos are back. Mitch should have landed back in Dubai by then. So me, Steve Hasty, and Mitch will be going live at 5:30. Hopefully do 2 hours if we can fit 2 hours in. It just depends. It is New Year's Eve, so we will give you a little something tomorrow, whatever happens with all your usual favourites. Evening. Hope you're well, trolls. Pablo Davies, speaking of Lee, there he is. Good evening, Lee. Hope you're well, mate. Good to speak to you earlier on. God bless you too, Chris. It was good to see you on the podcast I did earlier with War Cry. Publishing. Be Happy says, how excited were you, Steve, with the 1-1 draw the other day? Everyone wrote Newcastle off. Yeah, I was delighted. It was great to be there. Great to be at St James's Park on any occasion, but to be there when Newcastle, put a performance in like that was fantastic. And I've been lucky enough to be at some great wins against Man United, but if we forget the Ashley era and go back in time, I think the ones that probably compared to that were, although we only got 1 goal and it was a draw, it was very similar performance to the 5-0. Workman-like, Newcastle played really well. It was similar to the 3-1 when Ferguson scored. I can think back to some great games against Manchester United, but that was a great team performance. And although we only had something like 31% possession, we had, plenty shots on target. We were up and down and out of our seats, and the atmosphere was brilliant. So be happy. I was very happy, 100%. Jody Tumalive says, evening. Good evening, mate. Julie, how are you? I hope you're well. CBK General says, it's my brother's birthday today. Can I get a happy birthday, please? Happy birthday to your brother, CBK General. Don't know who it is, but I hope that he has a great day, or he's had a great day and he has a good evening. Nice to see that you can still get a party in for someone's birthday, not locked down, which is great. Evening, Catherine. I hope you're well. And Staffy says, Charlie Salvador case compared to the terrorists being considered for parole. Yeah, I put a little short out about that today. Charlie at the moment is on isolation, Charles Salvador. And again, to those of you tuned in for Newcastle content, I apologise because obviously, you know, as it's a Q&A, I can be asked about anything. But the true crime stuff is obviously something I'm very interested in. And Charlie Salvador was formerly known as Charlie Bronson, was formerly known as Michael Peterson. He committed a robbery where he got away with a minimal amount, was less than a tenner. And he's been in prison, give or take the 80 days that he was free, for 40 years. 23 years of that in solitary confinement, which to those of you who are uneducated in prison means that he was basically locked in a door, in a cage behind a prison door and fed through a hatch and was not allowed out for exercise. This guy became renowned in prison for damaging prisons, going up on the roof at Broadmoor, ripping the roof off not once but twice but 3 times. Doing it at numerous prisons, assaulting prison officers, and generally became a nuisance to the prison authorities. He's now a lot older, a lot wiser. He's become a talented artist behind bars. And like everybody else, he is entitled to parole. And his parole has been put back now by a year. And it's been put back to September 2022. This morning on the news, 93 terrorists in the UK are likely to be released this year on parole. 13 have already been released. And amongst that group of terrorists that are being released or potentially going to be released in 2022 are a guy who was going to blow up the Blue Water shopping centre, a guy who was going to go to the Ministry of Sound nightclub and set off explosive devices in there. Another guy who was planning on making devices at home and going into London and detonating them. Unbelievable to hear that this kind of person is going to be released against somebody who has only been a problem to the prison authorities. It beggars belief. And if you want to know more about Charles Salvador, go into the playlist. Go into my playlist, Charles Salvador playlist. And in that playlist, you will hear conversations between me and Charles over the period of 2020, somewhat earlier, but mainly 2020. That guy is such a funny guy, an entertaining guy, a very talented guy, and deserves the opportunity to come out and be a free man. And the fact that terrorists have been released is bizarre. So, yeah, Staffy, thanks for asking that, and thanks for allowing me to have a little rant about that. Lee, yes, make sure everybody's watching between 2 and 3. There will be a bit of Toon content. I've got a feeling it might drag on, Lee. We're saying 2 till 3, but because of the story that you've got to tell, and the fact that we can also talk Newcastle, it could drag on. Happy birthday to Ben. I'm not sure how old you are, Ben, but if you're anything like me, you'll be 21, mate, all year round again. So I hope you have an absolutely brilliant day, CBK General's brother Ben. Have a fantastic day. Can't wait to see the paperwork, says Liz. It's funny because on YouTube, with this Decahegi situation, everybody has become a legal expert. Everybody has become an expert on Claire's law, Sarah's law. Everyone's become an expert on acros. I'd never even heard of an acro. I thought it was a shopping centre, but that's macro. But yeah, an acro, where you can prove all your criminal record connections, etc. So ultimately, because of this ongoing situation, Decker is claiming that he's been cyberbullied and trolled for numerous years by various people. He's now had to go away. He's promised paperwork to people. He hasn't given the paperwork. He was then given what I would call a fairly serious ultimatum by a well-known travelling family who felt that he had pulled the wool over their eyes. As soon as that ultimatum went out the other night, Decker's now suddenly producing his paperwork. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Again, the All or Nothing podcast, Decahegi, 9 o'clock tonight. If you're interested in watching it, it should be interesting. Ian Buey, hi, Steve. Hope you had a good Christmas. Did it hurt being whacked over the head with a pool cue from Craig Fairbrass on Rise of the Foot Soldier 3? It didn't, because it was made of balsa wood. Plywood, basically. And the biggest thing about that scene that we filmed was that there was only 2 takes. We could only get 2 takes. And reason being that there was only 2 pool cues. So I had to get it right. And if you can picture the scene, I'm playing pool. And as I get up, I've got to, out the side of my eye, judge essentially when Craig Fairbrass is behind us before he hits us, because he's going to hit us, but because it's balsa wood and plywood, then ultimately it's not going to hurt like a real pool cue would. So it's not going to have the desired effect and knocking us down onto my knees. So I've got to act, and that's the hard part of that whole scenario. As it happens, he came in. We did a walkthrough. I could see him out my peripheral vision, and we got it first time. We did record the second one just for posterity, just in case anything was wrong. But yeah, the director, Zach Adler, congratulated us for doing it first time round. And it was the first take that was used in the film. So it didn't hurt. I will tell you though, Andy Beckwith, who was playing a role alongside me in my gang, it was me, Andy Beckwith and Sean Ryder. In the scene that we had in the gym, so you remember the gym scene, and you remember me and Andy Beckwith walk in, we go up to this guy who is basically working out in the gym. I walk behind him and I put the towel behind him and pull him like that. Andy then says his lines and then starts whacking him. So as that happens, Craig Fairbrass comes into the gym and he's gonna get stuck in to save his pal, which is another top actor, Eddie Webber. So we choreographed that bit. That was fine. Now the next bit, Craig Fairbrass comes in and he hits me with a dumbbell. So I'm on the floor, out of action. Craig Fairbrass then turns his attention to Andy Beckwith, and that's the bit where you see him up against the wall and they start fighting. Now in that bit, in the second take, when you throw a punch in acting, you know, you're moving out the way. So your punch comes across and you move out the way. Andy moved into the punch on the second take and he got a big black eye. He had to go to hospital, thought his nose was bust. And of course, in the film industry, it's a nightmare because he's a major actor. You don't know how long he's going to be off for. Is he going to claim insurance? You just don't know. But yeah, that's a story that's never been told about that. But I know Andy doesn't mind it being told these days. So there you go. There's an exclusive for you. Next question from Michael Newton. Do you think Man City are favourites to win the Premier League? It's not over till it's over. The 8 points clear now. As a Newcastle fan, I've been to all the games home and away. So I've seen Liverpool, Man City and Manchester United and Chelsea and Arsenal all this season. I've seen them in the flesh. Man City were the best team by far that I've seen. Closely followed by Chelsea. And then I would say Arsenal, then Liverpool. And that's on the performances that I saw against Newcastle. So I would say Man City are probably favourites. And the only thing that's going to stop them is injuries, COVID, or that quest for the Champions League. And that's the thing that's like the holy grail to them. That's what they want to win. So ultimately, Man City will only lose it if they take their eye off the ball. I think it's their league already. As for the teams that are going to go down, Newcastle will survive. Norwich are down, I think. And I know it sounds stupid when you're looking at the league table at the minute, but I think I don't see Norwich getting out of it again. I think Watford will go. And I've got a sneaky suspicion it's going to be Brentford. But I think it's going to go the last couple of weeks of the season. I think Brentford, Leeds, Newcastle, and Burnley will all be in and around it. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a nervous run-in for me as a Newcastle fan. Next question. As long as they come in quick so they can hit the ground running, says Don. About the signings, yeah, they've got to. And this is the point. This doesn't happen. We don't want a Mike Ashley transfer window here. We do not want signings coming in with a day to go or on transfer deadline day. They've got to come in early, because if they don't come in early, we're knackered. Absolutely knackered. We need them to come in right from the start. We're all hoping the Southampton game will be off. That takes you then into FA Cup weekend against Cambridge at home. I'd love to see a cup run, by the way. Winning breeds success. Winning, you've got to start winning games. I think a 4 or 5-0 win against Cambridge at home would do confidence wonders. Then we've got Watford at home, 6-pointer. And if we can beat Watford in the next game, wow, suddenly things are starting to turn around. Things are looking better. We've got a key month in January, some big games coming up. But yeah, we need big name players to come in. White Creature says, you're more than welcome to half the Man United first team. Mate, after watching them the other day, dear God. You know what I always said, though? I said this at the start of the season. When they signed Ronaldo, I said, that's gonna be a nightmare. Because you just managed to get Pogba playing well with Cavani, Fernandes, and then you hire Ronaldo into the mix, and that's a big ego to put in the dressing room. A big ego. So for me, I just couldn't see that working. Your back four's awful. Why on earth you bought Harry Maguire, I do not know. He was good at Leicester, but he's not rising to the big occasion. I presume he's still got this court case hanging over him from that bother that he had when he was on holiday abroad. Maybe that's still in the back of his mind. But no, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Maguire, But no, we don't want any of your team. I haven't, Kenny. No, Kenny gave us a memory card with some music on. I will have a listen, Kenny. I haven't had time, mate. Really, podcasts have taken priority. The gym's been open, and it's only open for a couple of days before it shuts down again for New Year. It's shut now, so back out walking again. Me and me routine for fitness. So ultimately, I will listen to it, mate, and don't worry about it. I will give you a review. Staffy says, Toon need fighters who are ready to fight from the off. We ain't got players to settle in or stroppy lazy players. We can't afford to have a Martial come in and go, oh, I didn't fancy it today. We need people who are going to graft, push hard, compete, and dare I say it, play like Joe Linton and Shelby, two players who I've criticised many a time on this platform, but two players who've risen to the challenge and risen to the new managers' ways and means. And yeah, I agree. We don't need any, anybody who's going to come along for a payday. Lee says, the boy from Fulham, full-back, great energy and decent lad, was going to go to Milan a few years back. And yeah, we were talking about that forward at Blackburn as well. We had a Blackburn fan on last night. It was going, keep away from him. Was it Brayton? You never know. People that might say, oh, God, don't go in the Championship and this, that, and the other. But, when Newcastle signed Andy Cole from Bristol Rovers, or Bristol City, sorry, I remember everybody saying, oh, God, what we're signing him for? And look what happened to him. He beat Hughie Gallagher's record. So, look, it's down to Eddie Howe. It's down to Steve Nixon, the head of recruitment. And they've got to get it right. Malta, good evening. Trippier would be a decent signing, in my opinion. Lingard on loan would be great. Yeah, look, they'll both be good signings. I think the thing that I saw on Twitter today, somebody said, people are saying, great deal, Trippier, 150 grand a week wages. Yet the same people are saying, don't sign Aaron Ramsey because he's too old. And Trippier's old. So I got the kid's point. I would take Aaron Ramsey on a free. Look, players who are going to fit in and who are going to work hard and play for the cause, that's what we need. And I think what Eddie Howe seems to be is a good man manager. He's got the best out of Lewis so far. He's got the best out of Shelby. He's got the best out of Joe Linton. You can already see the turnaround in some of these players. And I think ultimately that's what he does well. He works well with young players. I'm going to put my reputation on the line. I still think Matty Longstaff will have a part to play. I think Eddie Howe will get the best out of Matty Longstaff. I think he'll look at him, he'll take him away, and he'll make him a better player. And I reckon Matty Longstaff will be an important player in this running. Mark my words. Ian says, hope you had a good Christmas. We've already had that one, mate. You must have sent it twice. Sorry. Evening, Donald. Hope you're well, pal. Yano says, read today that the players signed on the first cannot play until the 15th. Is this right? I doubt it, because obviously we've got the FA Cup, which is on the 8th, I think it is, off the top of my head. But the FA Cup game is the first game. So if they're cup tied, they'll not be able to play. But yeah, I can't imagine that they won't be able to play till the 15th if they're not cup tied. Patrick Schick for striker. Yeah, he's been mentioned a couple of times on here. Botman for centre-back, says William. Again, a name which is trending on Twitter, along with Trippier. Newcastle fans, I think it was about 7,500 tweets about an hour ago on those two names alone, which shows you Newcastle fans are spending most of their time in the build-up to New Year on their phones waiting for the inevitable call of the first signing. Totally agree, says Lee. Henderson, Man United in the summer. Johnston from West Brom this month. Again, lots of names being bandied around in the chat, but online, etc. And if we get half the names that we've been linked with, I'd be over the moon. Eamon says, please send Mick Lowe's my regards. Magic Mac from Portadown, County Armagh and Northern Ireland. I would be very surprised if he isn't watching tonight, so I'm sure he will see that, Eamon. And look, he hasn't had a setback. He's just been told to rest up, and we've got to go with the doctor's order. So he will be back when he's feeling fit and ready. Keith Roll, hope you're well, pal. Evening, Steve. Hope you're well. I think Trippier will end up somewhere like Man United. A few months ago, there was lots of talk about Ralph Rangnick coming to Newcastle, and obviously he went to Man United. Yeah, I didn't understand the link with Rangnick. I've got to be honest. And, I think that Mirdad and Amanda, I think they'd already got it in their mind that Eddie Howe was the man. I think they had a few, look at a few others, but I think Howe's been the right choice at the right time. I've got to be honest. And I think that I don't expect Newcastle to start ploughing in stupid money in the first transfer window. They know they've got to make investments. They've got to make the right ones. And I don't think they'll want to unsettle what they've got. I think they'll want to strengthen, but I think they'll do the right thing. I'm going into this transfer window a lot more confident than I have in the last 14 years, put it that way. I didn't understand the Rangnick link. I didn't really fancy him at all. I didn't know a great deal about him. Eddie Howe wasn't my first choice. I would have preferred Rafa to come back, but he'd gone to Everton, so that was never going to happen. Out of the other names linked, your Mourinho's, your Contes, these are big name managers who want big budgets, and I just felt, I didn't feel that they would come in and take over with a club, at the bottom. I think we would have stood a chance with Ranieri if you hadn't gone to Watford. But again, would PIF and that have gone for him? I don't know. But I'm happy with Eddie Howe. And as I say, I've been home and away all season, and I've seen the change in the last 8 weeks. And Eddie Howe is definitely having an effect on that team. And I think we've made the right choice. And I think he's a great manager to start this new era with. Evening, Gary. Hope you're well. Kenny says, I think that there are a lot of things happening in the transfer window. We'll have to wait a couple of weeks to see where we're headed. Yeah, Kenny, I mean, I think there'll be an early signing. I'd be very surprised if they don't pull in a signing very early on. I think they will do business throughout the transfer window. I would be very surprised if there isn't a few outs as well. But yeah, I think there'll be a bit of work done, 100%. Geordie Toonvalley says, Norwich hoping to have the game called off on Saturday. Social media is quiet. Yeah, you couldn't understand it, could you? I've seen some of the tweets from Everton fans in particular going off it that would cancel the game. And I think I covered this with Holly on the show the other night, but I think a lot of it was down to the fact that we didn't just mention COVID, but we mentioned injuries as well. And Holly brought up that another club had done it, but you couldn't remember who it was. But the statement that was put out from the club stipulated that there'd been, that the game was called off due to COVID and injury and the injury list. And people are going, about the injury list, but that's part of the game. But yeah, if Norwich isn't Newcastle. Newcastle's everybody's favourite whipping boys at the minute. It's a bit of jealousy, I think. Dave says, Steve, how come the match with the Saints is going ahead when we got the same problems as with the Everton game? Dave, I don't think that game will go ahead, mate. I think there'll be a late call. There was a late call on the Everton game, as we know. I genuinely don't think it'll go ahead. I can't see it happening. I really can't. Southampton are already twisting and bumping their gums about it, but I genuinely cannot see. I really cannot see that happening, mate. So let's wait and see. Ryan, thanks for the donation, mate. Much appreciated, mate. It's nice that you can do that, and it's nice that you feel that we'll put enough content on here to do that. So thank you very much for the money. Tom's said, I'd like to see us get Moussa Dembele in. Yeah, me too, mate. I think, again, it would be a decent signing. I hope you're not too hungover from your birthday. Lee says, I agree, Schick and also Isaac can be got in the window. Big fee and the lads need the next step. We are that. Pablo reckon a deal can be done with West Brom for Johnson using Gale as a part exchange, which is a good shout. Donald, yes. Andy McNabb, Bravo 2-0, Andy. It's a great interview. We did an hour and it was fantastic. Really enjoyed doing it. And if you're into your army stuff, have a look in the playlists for Peter McAleese, who was an SAS, former SAS and former paratrooper. The interview I did with him was fantastic. That guy was the one who was given the job of killing Pablo Escobar, and he has a hell of a story to tell. And I've actually got him coming to Newcastle. So if you go on to Groupon or Voucher, I've got him here in the middle of January, and he's going to be doing a talk. And if you look up on the internet, or I think it's BBC iPlayer, I think it is, the program's called Killing Escobar. And that particular program was fantastic. He's obviously the star of the show, but it was about a group of soldiers who were given the task of going across to basically take out the drug, the main drugs kingpin. But yeah, get yourself onto Groupon, get yourself onto Voucher, and you'll be able to buy tickets for that. Peter McAleese, but have a look in the playlist and you'll be able to find it. And there's the poster there. Peter McAleese, Killing Escobar, Friday the 21st of January, and that is at the Tyneside Irish Centre. That one has survived the cull on events which have taken place recently. Okay, back to the questions. Lee's got a great story, says, well, yeah, he has, mate, and I'm looking forward to getting him on tomorrow. Gary says, disappointed Mick Lowes isn't on the show tonight. I was looking forward to spending my birthday catching up. Well, Mick, happy birthday, Gary. Hope you've had a good one, pal. Where do you see the club in 3 years? Time relating to all aspects of the club, apart from on-field team squad. I see them competing for Europe, Jersey Mag. I've got to be honest. By 3 years' time, I think there'll be trouble in the European slots. Certainly the Europa League, because the Premier League's quite, it's broken into three sections. You've got the top half where they're all chasing Champions League and the top six. You've got the next section, the middle section, who are all fighting for some, just edging away from fighting for survival and heading towards the Europa. And then you've got the bottom end, where they're all fighting to stay up and stay for their life. So yeah, I see Newcastle challenging for Europe in 3 years' time, mate, to be honest. White Creature, the Man United fan, says, yes, Newcastle were very good and we were simply awful again. Yeah, I mean, even the game that we played at Old Trafford, had it not been for Ronaldo making his debut that day, I still think Newcastle could have got something out of that game. We did collapse like a Steve Bruce team could only collapse. But yeah, I mean, we gave you a good game until Ronaldo scored and the crowd went wild. But yeah, it's not the Man United team of old. And the spectre of Alex Ferguson still hangs heavy over Old Trafford. Matty Kelly says, you can clearly see a difference in the way we play under Howe. Roll on January and see who we bring in. Yeah, it's noticeable to everybody. Burnley Man U tonight. God, no, there's a prediction. It's going to be a draw in it. Burnley are going to be up for that tonight. It's going to be a draw. 0-0 though. 0-0. Barry Hogan says, thank you so much for the shows in 2021, Steve. You and the guys have kept a lot of people going in some really dark times. Barry, thank you, mate. It's been good from your mental health. It's been good for everybody else's. I'm lucky in the sense that I don't really suffer, too much mental trauma. And we all have ups and down days, but I tend to channel my myself in exercise, whether it's training with weights or going out for a walk or whatever, and keeping busy. And that is me advice to anybody. If you feel like you're getting stuck in a rut, try something different. Pick a book up. Get lost in a book. A book, sometimes something good. Sometimes the internet is it's too much of an attraction. It's the glare of the computer screen that pulls you in. Pick a book up. Go and switch your TV off, switch your computer off, switch your phone off, and sit in a chair, get a book, open a book, and educate yourself. Because the biggest tool that you've got is your mind. And listening to yourself in your mind and reading a book. It could be an autobiography, it could be a fictional book, whatever you like. But get a book, go and buy a book and read it. Don't listen to an audio book, read a book. For me, that's sometimes the best way of switching off. from everything around you. But thanks, Barry. I'll continue to knock these out the park. And, you know, I've got a great team and I've got a great bunch of people, you know, from Neil Jackson at Media Arts to John at Q-Tech, you know, from the guys and girls who do the show with us. You know, Holly's been a revelation, and, you know, the Three Amigos have been fantastic. It's obviously one of our more popular shows. Monday night, of course, I have a night off, and Pete and Chris have held the fort superbly and created their own little show there with you guys who come on and have your own say. Tuesdays with Liam Kennedy is a very popular one, and I'm sure we'll get good figures over the next month as we talk transfers. Then Wednesday, the retro show with, you know, the likes of George and Steve and Stu joining me, Mitch and Steve on the show has been great, looking back at days gone by. And then, of course, Thursday was Super Matt and Gibbo. So, look, it's a great team. It's a great team of people. And, you know, to be able to call on the likes of Mick Lowe's to jump on and suddenly do a show has been great. And it's moved away from the ex-players deliberately, because I think people are more interested in speaking to fans. And yeah, we will get the ex-players on every now and then, but I think it's just nice to have, you know, nice to have a bit of different content. And I've got a few new ideas. You know, we're constantly changing. And as you know, the true crime stuff is a passion of mine. And there's some great stories. You'll find this with Lee's tomorrow. His is a proper roller coaster of a ride. But if you look back through the playlists of interviews that I've done on the true crime stuff, there's been some fantastic stuff. And I think the biggest viewing figures were for people like David Icke. I mean, that was good. Darren G was a good one. The most controversial one I did was Tommy Robinson, of course. And, you know, people slated me for that, but I had a reason for doing it. The Charlie Salvador ones have been popular. So I'm not afraid to interview big name characters. And that's just the way I'll continue to go about with business. I'm going to be doing a lot of collaborations, going to be working with, you know, Andrew Gain. I'm going to be working with Sean Atwood once a month. I've got an idea for a bit of a news type podcast where we talk about events. I've got a couple. I'm going to do more collaborations, and I'd like to see some of these other podcasts do well. You know, I'm doing Paul Ellison's tonight, but I've got Ronan from Let's Talk podcast, who is coming on next week, which I think will be great. So, you know, doing a lot of these other shows and other podcasts, which ultimately will be, you know, which will be really popular, you know. Okay, the next point here is from Stappy. Says, who's the biggest threat to society, convicted terrorists or Charlie Salvador? Well, exactly. And that is the point that everybody, you know, everybody should realize. And as I say, if you listen to the Charlie Salvador stuff, that is up on the channel under the playlist, you'll understand why. First few realistic signings, Steve. I don't really want to get into speculation. I'll leave that to other people. I think there's a lot of people who will make suggestions, you know, over the coming weeks, and I just don't want to add to it. I just genuinely feel, you know, that if we do get the likes of Trippier, who's been mentioned, we've got an Aaron Ramsey in, if we got a Connor Cody, and I'd be over the moon. But it's pointless me adding to the speculation. Big shout out to Old Man River Lee, who's just said snake. Yeah, cheers, mate. Thank you. I'll leave you in the chat. I'm sure you've had a little pop. I'm quite away behind with comments, but we'll see what else you've got to say. Paddy Conroy, what's the latest? Thomas, I'm just leaving it, mate. Honestly, it's a waste of time getting drawn into an argument with somebody who A, is telling lies, B, doesn't know what on earth he's talking about on things like I watched a little clip he put up, a 2-minute clip. Was it earlier today? And it was about Decker and the acro situation. And he's going on about acros and then says, I don't even know what an acro is like. And I'm thinking, dear God, you know, is this guy for real? Like, is he actually for real? Look, the only reason the guy targets me is because he can't target Stephen Sears. He's clearly scared of him, clearly frightened of him for whatever reason. And he thinks that I'm a weak target. And I'm not getting drawn into it anymore. This is the end. I'm moving on. I'm not going to be putting any more stuff up about him. It's a waste of time. I've tried everything. I've tried being nice. I've tried being genuine. I've offered to go on his show. I've offered to do a lie detector. I've offered to have him on my show. I've offered to go on a neutral show with him on. But the guy's just going to constantly just come out and say this, say that, say the other about me. Let him crack on. You know, he's like a 65-year-old man or whatever he is, sitting in a shed. Hasn't got any lights, has hardly got any money to do his internet, and is making an absolute mug of himself. And I'm moving on. I don't need it. I'm making good content, making a good podcast. So that is the end. not the latest. That is the end. 40 years is madness. He should be free. Murderers get less, as do nonsense, says Malta Whitney. 100%, mate. I would agree. Home for a Man United win tonight, says Tom. Yep, I agree, mate. These terrorists do not conform ever. History shows that. Yeah, and listen, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Nobody can understand, this whole thing. None of it makes sense. 93 terrorists for parole. Surely they are more of a danger than Charlie. Lots of people saying that. Yeah, it is very true. Jack Sparrow, hope you well. Evening all, and Merry Christmas to all. Steve, not sure if it's been up already, but what do you expect we will do in the window next month? I think we'll do business, mate. I spoke a little bit about it earlier, but I think we'll do business. Steve, what munchies are you eating for the Acro reveal? Says Motorsports. Hey, I've been watching your channel, mate. Respect to you. Good to see you're covering some of the stuff that we've all been talking about in your own way. Keep up the good work. I won't be eating any munchies, mate. I'm back on me routine now. I weigh everything that I eat. I'm very particular what I eat, and I'll probably deviate a little bit on Saturday, but then I'll be back into the routine again, mate. So I'm very careful. When you get to my age, you've got to be, mate. Maxwell case behind closed doors. Who is being protected is what I want to know, says Matty Kelly. Unbelievable, mate, to be honest. I watched that with interest. Sean Atwood was doing such a great job on that, but then he could have lost his channel. More or less, he was getting strikes on his channel. The powers that be didn't like what he was putting up there, and he had to stop. But he was doing a great job. I was fascinated watching that. Watching last night, and watching the verdict come in, and I stayed up till about 12, waiting for the Maxwell family to come out, who then gnashed out the back door to get away from the media and got, caught by the cameras. I think it's going to run and run. I think we all know that there's some fairly big names are going to have to spend a lot of money keeping themselves out of court. I think the Guthrie case, which is a civil case against Prince Andrew, which will start, I think it's next month, next year. That's going to be fascinating, because my understanding of that is, this is the girl who was pictured with Prince Andrew with his arm around her and Ghislaine Maxwell in the background, and she is taking a civil action to say that she basically was involved in a physical relationship with him, and these allegations that she feels she needs to take to a civil court, if they are proven to be correct, she will get, in America, she will get the justification if he's found guilty. She will get the justification of a guilty verdict, but there'll be no prosecution, because he won't turn up, will he? He won't turn up. He won't go there. He hasn't got any reason to turn up. He won't have to go there by law. But that's not going to look good for him, is it? He's already had to retire from public life after the car crash of an interview that he did. It's fascinating. It is. And he's not the only one. There are other big names. So, yeah. And is he really dead? Did he really kill himself? Did he buy his way out of it? Was he killed? So many question marks over that whole case. It's fascinating stuff. Way above our level, of course, but fascinating stuff. And I guess it just shows that no matter how big your checkbook, if you're guilty, you're going to go to prison, and she's going to get lifed off. Or what the rest of her life, she's going to spend most of it behind bars. Dean Lynch and Dougie Joyce have already cleared Heggie off, which is good, says White Creature. Yeah, getting back to the Decker Heggie situation. The videos were interesting, to say the least. I saw one with Dean on someone else's channel the other night, and that was rather damning as well. But yeah, it was interesting. Alan Thompson, good evening. He says, Steve, I've just put a stone on him weight after all the humble pie I've eaten about Joe Linton, after saying many times on the 5-minute rant, he's the worst player I've ever seen. Graveling now. Yeah, we're talking to, I was talking to Holly the other day about Milligan's, because obviously Milligan's gave us a load of pies and pasties and stuff to go down on the train. And fair play to Milligan's. Somebody mentioned Milligan's doing a humble pie, and they're just going to mention it to the boss. So we'll see what happens. All the popcorn's gone, mate. All the popcorn's gone. I've already had that over Christmas. Paul Gibson says the darts has been good. I've got 20 quid on the kid from Bedlington. Callan Ridds at 14-1. Is he still in? I don't know. I've got to be honest. I don't tune in the darts until the quarters, and I think that's this week. So I'm gonna have to see it. Keith Roll, Steve, Coronation Street, EastEnders, or Emmerdale, which is your favourite soap? And if you could play a villain in one of them, which soap would it be? Coronation Street is the only one I watch. I used to watch the others when I was a kid, but Coronation Street is the one for me, and that's the one I'd love to be a villain in, mate. And my good friend Bill Fellows is in it at the minute. He's playing Stu, the homeless guy. So look, if he's in it, there's still hope for me yet, and he's got the same agent as me. So watch this space. Chris says the paperwork tonight it's all going to be doctored. Yeah, a lot of people have suggested that. Eamon says, I'd like to thank you for all the great shows you put together the last few years. Very much appreciated, young man. Also, I wish you and the family all the best for the new year, lad. How are the lads? Eamon, same back to you, mate. Thank you very much. It's nice. Honestly, I always say this, but the positivity that I get from everybody in the chat and on most of my social media is all positive. Very, very few negatives, and I really do appreciate that. And although some people try to drag me into other situations, you know, I learned my lesson a long time ago not to get involved and just use the block button and move on. There's no time for negativity in your life. Lee says the bad thing is that Charlie is purely a product of the system in the sense that he keeps the wheel turning. Prisons are hotels. They need guests to earn money. Hence does the criminal justice system. Yeah, I've got to agree, mate. And Charlie's realised now, that's the difference, Lee. He's realised now that he's got to behave. And believe you me, in the last couple of years, they have tested him to the limit. Like halal meat for his Christmas dinner, well, he wouldn't eat it. He complained about that. He had an ongoing situation with regards to a watch. Then boots being sent in weren't reaching them. He's taken away the privilege of doing art and sending it out to anybody. He had to then just send it out to charities. So ultimately, they've tested him. And in the past, he would have reacted. But he hasn't reacted to this over the last few years. He has changed a lot. It's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting. So he's gone into the last 16 Callan Ridds. That is good. Getting back to Decky, Pete says, I highly doubt he'll show the actual paper. He'll probably read it out. He wouldn't send Dean Lynch Ward a screenshot of it, so why would he show hundreds? Yeah, good point, mate. Was watching a film called The Governor with a Wife the other night, and up popped Steve and Carlton Leach. Wasn't expecting that. Yeah, Meet the Governors. Great film, that. I actually did that with Fulwell 73, who are based in, a company from Sunderland. And when I went for the casting for that, I had to go to London, and I walked in, and it was like a shrine to Sunderland Football Club. So as a Newcastle fan, you can imagine me walking in going, what on earth is this? And I got into the audition, and the lad said, we thought it would be you. And that was made, in the words of Jimmy Neal on Afeda's Ian Pet, they made us feel about as welcome as a fart in an astronaut suit. But joking aside, I did the audition, I got the part, and they were a great bunch of lads to work for, and really pleased with that film. Did you spot David Essex in it? That's the question, John. Did you spot David Essex in it? Gallagher then, Pigeon. Christ, we haven't heard from you for a while. I thought you'd migrated for winter. Hi, Steve. Hope you're well. What's your thoughts on the players linked? I don't believe any of it, mate. Until I see them holding a scarf, I don't believe any of it. Malta reckons that Norwich Burnley will go. Can't see Watford going down. What makes you think Watford will stay up? I just can't see. I think Ranieri did well at Leicester, but it was off the back of what Nigel Pearson did, and I'm not sure that the Tinker Man is all that. I've got to be perfectly honest. He did well winning the league, though. Give him that. Favourite film show that you've acted in, says Jesper. Favourite film, Rise of the Foot Soldier. What a franchise to be involved in. Favourite TV programme I've done is Vera, because I had a really good role in that, playing Big Pete, the dodgy cafe owner. And my missus said it was the best acting I've ever done, because I'm never, ever seen in a kitchen. So, yeah, that's the answer to those two. Watford are awful, says White Creature. Stu, good evening. Stu, it's great to see you chatting to people these days instead of having to say Ashley out or Bruce out. Transfer window almost open, lads, and lasses. It's been a while since we've looked forward to a window. You are right. Barry Hogan says, papers say even if we sign them on day one, we can't play them for the Southampton game. I hope the Southampton game's off. Hi, Gallagher Pigeon. Can you please tell Steve it's not me? We all think it's you, John, I'm afraid. Colin Wilson says, good evening all. Hope you're well, mate. Anything happening about our comedy award winner 2021, The Man in the Shed? Paul, I haven't had time to do them. I can't find the wig either. To be perfectly honest, you know, I've got one more that I could do, but that means I would be breaking my New Year's resolution of not doing anything Conroy related. So, you know, I can't go back on my word. I'm just going to leave it. Honestly, it's pointless. I'm literally fighting with a man in a shed with crap internet, poor dress sense, and, you know, no idea of what he's talking about. And he's just hurling pointless insults towards us. Most of them sexual, which really gives me concerns, because I wonder whether he's got some kind of sexual obsession with me. That's what usually happens with people when they start chucking out accusations. They've actually got an obsession about the person, and they want to do those things to that person. And, you know, he's obsessed with me sitting on Ronnie Crea's knee and doing this and doing that. It's bizarre, absolutely bizarre behaviour from a grown man. I really don't understand it. Rob B says, you'd have to say pay top dollar as you have to buy match fit players that have been playing regularly, not any players that are in the reserves at all. It will take a month or two to get match fit. Yeah, I agree. Dan says, I feel sorry for Greenwood derailing his development for a good few shirt sales. I'd take him on loan for the rest of the season. Yeah, Greenwood would be okay. I think there's better players we can get, but I'm not sure. Hit the subscribe button, says Julie. Thank you. I do often come out with that. In fact, I will, whilst you're all there, can you please hit the thumb up? That is the like button. It does do us massive favours, and just helps with bringing more people to the channel. Thank you to Spider VPN for all your internet protection. Google Spider VPN, they're at the top of your Google search list. Thanks to skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245, and to the Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks also to Arcot Interiors, based on Heaton Road, for all your kitchen needs. Google Arcot Interiors, they come up at the top of the search list as well. Also, thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who make our website, NUFCmatters.com. Thanks to Jab Signature, jabsignature.co.uk, the guys who make our flyers. Please subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, drop into the comments box to leave a question or to speak to like-minded supporters of the channel. Also, drop into the comments box under the video if you're watching this at a later date. Always good to get your opinions and views. iTunes, Spotify, Podbean. You can find us on all of those Podbean podcast channels after usually about 24 hours after the show's gone live. So if you're out walking the dog or out and about, you can listen to us on there. Well worth looking at. We do ask as well if you can help a local charity, the NUFC Fans Food Bank, that you go online and make a virtual donation to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. That is running 265 days, 365 days of the year, and we have raised over 15 grand in 2 years for the food bank just through your donations alone. So thank you for doing that. And we've also on my Twitter at Steve Wraith, if you want to give us a follow on there. We've got this Walking in a Keegan Wonderland Christmas jumper up for grabs for the food bank. You can make a donation on the pinned tweet on there. I did do a show last night as well, the Steve Wraith Podcast Awards. Well worth a watch in the playlist. And if you want to watch a Newcastle related one as well, I did my dream team with Holly, where I picked my all-time Newcastle 11 manager and substitutes, which is well worth a watch. And let's go back to a few extra questions before we finish. I might extend it by 5 or 10 minutes. Pablo Davies says the media are piling on us because it shuts them. It's a close call. We are not far away. We have big games behind us now. Let's keep chins up and add 2 or 3. Trust Howe and his methods. Lee, I agree. Defense is awful. No centre midfield, and Rashford needs to stick with politics. Barry says bit out there, but Christian Eriksen is looking for a new club, cracking player. But would you sign him? Difficult, mate. Really difficult. You know, especially with these health concerns. Great stream, Steve. Thanks for all the great content this year. Have a great new year. A happy new year to you too, mate. Keith. Alec Hall says, let's be honest, Newcastle are signing nobody except young players from the Championship. If they are smart, and 1 or 2 30-something players from abroad to try and stay up. Alec, it's all about opinions. What was this as well? Oh, Lee, we've got to touch base. I just want to say, Steve, think you're a great content creator. Actually, look forward to what you're going to do next. Definitely looking forward to what you are going to do in 2022. Lee, we'll definitely get you on the channel. I need some way of contacting you, Lee. I keep seeing you in the content and comments, but we do need to touch base. I will persevere and find you over the next day or two If you're on Instagram or on Twitter or whatever, please send us a message. How good was the atmosphere at St James's? I'm loving it. It's going to get better. Tell. Fantastic. Although Alfie Dobson, who's going to play John Henry Sayers in the Sayers film, texted me the other day and said atmosphere was rubbish. It's the first game he's been to for 6 years. Atmosphere was rubbish. I couldn't understand it. Really could not understand it. I thought it was great. Life Goals says, I'm due to go to Saints versus Newcastle, so mixed feelings about it going ahead. Will you head down? It's the one game I wasn't going to go to, mate, because I always go out New Year's Day. The last thing I wanted to do was travel to Southampton with a hangover, and a 6-hour journey there and a 6-hour journey back. It's the one game I said I wasn't going to. So no, I wasn't going, mate. Can't call the Brazilian Joe Clinton anymore after the last 3 games, Paul. No, you're right there. Was I having George Gently? No, I did Biker Grove 3 times. I was in the very last one. I played the zombie. I've got that somewhere on videotape, I think. Life Goal says, do you think Barry Casey, Mouth of the Tyne, and all the other in-the-know profiles on Twitter are run by the same person? Well, Mouth of the Tyne's Burnsy, who I had on my Think Before You Tweet documentary, which you can find in the playlist. He used to be a bit of a troll on Twitter, but he set that up. And to be honest, he's a canny lad. You know, he works in mental health. He's a decent kid. I just don't understand why he constantly puts up stuff about Trippier's nearly done, just waiting for medical, this, that, and the other. I've never understood why anybody would put their neck on the line. Had inside info from the club. Well, I'm afraid, I don't know who's telling you this, but that's utter rubbish. So I don't know whether they're the same person, mate. I really don't know, and I wouldn't want to speculate. But you would imagine some of these people have got more than one account. He says he doesn't. So, I don't know. Do you think Saudi PIF would have WWE and WWF at St James's Park at one point? Thomas, yeah, possibly, mate. I think they just need to ensure Premiership survival before they start planning anything like that. Burnley will stay up, says Alec. Yes, I remember David Essex in it. He was the boxing coach. That's right. He was, yeah, correct. Just heard our COVID results at the training ground have got a lot worse. Yeah, Dennis, I wouldn't be surprised if the Southampton game's off. Has the Pigeons gone yet from our ground? I was going to mention it last night. Tom, that's a great question. Anybody who sits in the Gallagher, let us know. Great contest through 21. You and the Matters crew. Keep it up. 2022. Keep it better. Mick, thanks, Dave. Be fair to Decker, though, his show is going to probably get 100k views tonight. Why would he give it to Dean early and then post? He's going to keep it for his own channel. Yeah, Dean, it's all about hits and views, etc. But let's face it, mate. Is it really worth tarnishing your reputation? I've already seen Conroy come out today and say that it's pointless showing an acro. It should be Sarah's law and Claire's law. Well, how can he show that? You're not allowed to show that. The whole thing's ridiculous. Like it is going to go on and on and on. This is what I'm saying about the Decker-Heggie situation and the Conroy situation. And Barry Mitch getting onto us today saying, you want to leave him alone and all these people want to stop bullying him. It's not bullying. It's having an opinion on something that's been played out in the open. And Decker has played it all out in the open. So ultimately, he's acro out in the open now, or he's paperweight, whatever he's going to show tonight. He's making a big drama about it. He's got loads of people waiting to watch this tonight. And he's creating this problem. He's creating his own problem. And just to give you an insight into this, you can listen to this Claire's Law reveal. It was recorded by a woman. It was a woman recorded it. And the other message that basically it was alleged to be an officer of the law speaking to a woman, reading the Claire's Law out down the phone. And this particular kid has got no further actions, but some of the offences are quite severe against women. And there's one in particular with a minor. So, they're no further action. They're not convictions. But ultimately, the problem is that he's openly spoken about this. He's recorded conversations. He's allowed those conversations to go out to other people. And God, he's created his own living hell. And I don't understand why he would even try and monetize it. Dean says, I'm not saying Decker's innocent, but we can't demand his paperwork, then say it's fake when he provides it. Surely, I'm not going to do that. But you've already heard Conroy today. He's going to do that. And this is what I'm saying. It's all about likes and hits and subscriptions and people, getting stuff. It is absolutely bizarre. Eamon says, Steve, my mate, and myself have got tickets for the Watford match and booked into the Jury's Inn. It should be an exciting flight over from the Emerald Isle. How are the lads? Well, get yourself to the Dog and Parrot, mate. That's where we'll be pre-match. Come in and see us. Come and introduce yourself again, mate, and be good to see you. Bill Burnett says, I think you have been well and truly, Ashley. You are so negative these days. Cheer up. We can only go one way from here, up, in case you are wondering. Bill, I've been positive. I said we'll stay up. Other people on the channel have said we're going to go down. I personally feel Newcastle will stay up, Bill. I hope that's positive for you. Emmerdale is numero uno, says AD. Nah, I didn't like it. They had a big explosion at the pub the other day and nobody died, apparently. And that's not a spoiler. I'm sure you've all caught up with it if you watch it. The Prince is probably hiding in Paddy's shed. Christ, with all them rats and cats, I doubt it. We need Prince Andrew alive to produce these papers. Oh, God. Steve, any truth in the rumour of you and Decker having a boxing match for charity? No, mate. I'm a lover, not a fighter, and I definitely wouldn't get in the ring with him at all. I'm a promoter, mate. I'm not a fighter. Believe you me. That is the last thing I would ever be doing. Dean says, surely if Decker is doing the live tonight, his record is clean. Or he'd have been an idiot to do it. Feel like everyone is just going to say it's fake anyway, so we can't win. Let's be honest. So we'll wait and see. Maxwell case, I think it runs deep into the higher echelons of society. Some big names are definitely quivering, 100%, mate. Be Happy says, as if Epstein never said, equals if anything happens to me in prison, I give so many people damaging evidence on people to put on the dark web. Epstein alive in Israel with a beer. Would not surprise me. Would not surprise me in the slightest. A bit like when the News of the World got knacked and he had to close his paper, Rupert Murdoch. Surprisingly, a lot of people's careers went down the Swanee after that. Not that I'm saying anything, but allegedly, there was a few people's careers and a few big stories suddenly got leaked out on other news outlets. And you just felt that the sinking ship, the captain was getting a little bit of justice on other people. Yeah, I was asking if Holly's in the chat. Can you believe Steve has just said he is very particular on what he eats? I don't think Holly is in the chat tonight. If she is, hiya. Can you get Prince Andrew on? What a coup. I don't think so, mate. I don't even think I'll ask the question to Buckingham Palace or wherever it is. Guy in the shed eats loads of Pringles and hobnobs. Does he? Stirs lots of coffee. CBK General, yeah, thank you for all the content. It's been something to look forward to. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Ryan says, think about this. Paddy's channel is all about Wraith. He's getting dosh off the waffles. He'll most likely never end until the inevitable, obviously. What's the inevitable? He explodes with anger at the fact that I'm not replying to him or doing anything, potentially. Yeah, listen, there's no such thing as bad publicity, Ryan. And that's the bottom line, mate. And, ultimately, I can't stop it, can I? So let's just see, how it all pans out. Lee says, please, my next dream is to have Adidas back as our kit supplier and the brown ale on our shirt. I don't think that'll ever happen. Especially with the Blue Star. The deal that was done by Ashley as well is all of that's been sold off. So the retro shirts aren't going to be available anymore soon either. So, that's going to be interesting. Paul says it'll be cold in the shed this time of year. I hope he's got a flask to go with the doobies. Colin says, Steve, you're a breath of fresh air, mate, and what brought me onto Twitter. Take a bow. Hoping to have a beer with KP on holiday. That'll top my ear off. Always been a glass half full. Still am. Colin, been an absolute pleasure, and you've been great in the chat, mate. Thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with us and always asking great questions as well. And you enjoy your time with Keith. I know he's out in the sun. I hope he has a great time. I bumped into him at the weekend. Hi, great. Another show. What do you think about Bruce? Things about Ward Joe now? Als, to be honest, Steve Bruce is such a big Newcastle fan. I thought he would have been back at St James's Park cheering the lads on, but he's never been seen. What does he think about Ward Joe? Well, he always said he was good in training. He just didn't know that he was a bloody central defensive midfielder. So, yeah. Interesting, mate. Interesting to see what he thinks about how things turn out, I guess. On your true crime stuff, will you be interviewing any FBI profilers in the future? It's a good shout, Donald. If you know anybody, chuck us a few names on Twitter and I'll see what I can do. Lee says, totally agree. Pick up a book, go to the park. Social media is our best friend, but worst enemy. It accentuates the mood, good and bad. Yeah, 100%, mate. There's no doubt about that at all. Ryan says, the best thing for my mind is working out. I've got gym stuff at home since COVID, never stopped since. See, I couldn't train at home. I'm not one for training and doing gym in the house. I couldn't have a weight bench. I mean, when you've got family as well, you know, I just think going to a gym, getting up at the crack of dawn and going out and walking like I did during lockdown, it's discipline. I think if I was in the house, I just don't think I'd have the same discipline. But everybody's different, and that is the tree. A healthy body equals a healthy mind. There's no doubt about it. Paul says, nice gym, sauna, swim, over biker pool earlier, then walk down to Morrison's to be greeted by all the plonkies who hadn't been for a swim or a jog or anything healthy. So no, that's great. Billy says, even Steve, the two need a striker that can score 10 to 15 goals in the Premiership in the remaining games. I can't get Aubameyang out of my head. I know his issues. Not sure who else would do it. Yeah, Aubameyang got mentioned the other night. You know, I just wouldn't take the risk just because of the whole issues that clearly have happened at Arsenal. I don't know. Would I take him on loan? Maybe, but we've got such a temperamental squad. The slightest foot out the line by somebody, I think could all collapse like a pack of cards. And that's what I'm saying. I think you've got to get the right characters in that dressing room. Shelby's the most temperamental player we've got. Eddie Howe's got him playing like a world beater at the minute. We cannot afford to affect that. Short term, long term, I couldn't care. Get him out and get somebody better in. But it's a minefield. And that's up to Eddie Howe to sort out. But Eddie Howe seems to be a very good man manager. And that's something that Bruce wasn't. Tell says, need to build a spine, decent centre-half, decent full-backs, decent midfielder, decent striker, and a goalkeeper, Tell. Like I said earlier, I definitely think we need another goalkeeper to support Dubravka. What about bringing Adam Armstrong back? Homegrown for Europe in 3 years. Boy can finish. Hasn't done well at Southampton. I remember watching him in the FA Cup for Blackburn against Newcastle. Wasn't impressed then. Not convinced. I think he's the kind that needs a big centre forward alongside him. He needs a big lad alongside him who can take the weight, take the physical side and lay him off and play him in. And I think he needs more practice on his finishing. But listen, again, if we've got a chance of bringing Adam Armstrong to Newcastle on loan, would I take it? Yeah, I'd take any forward who can score goals at the minute. Bill says, mate, you love the sound of your own voice. Well, it's a bit difficult when I'm the only person on the show due to Mick Lowe's not being able to come on, mate. So I'm answering questions. That's the whole point of doing it. And I don't avoid critique and I don't avoid people having a pop, mate. And I'll not ban you for that, but I don't love the sound of my own voice, mate. If Southampton game goes ahead, which dressing room will Ward-Prowse be in? That's a good question. NUFC have new COVID cases as of today. Southampton looking like it will be off, thankfully. Yeah, that is good. And it was the Premier League that put out that statement. Oh, I didn't realise that. Well, that is weird. I thought it was the club who put that out first. Is there anything you would like to see the club do behind the scenes over the next 6 to 12 months? Yes, get the fans groups in. And build up the communication with supporters groups. Obviously, there are many supporters groups out there. You need to start with the likes of NUST, NUFC Fans United, NUSDA, the disabled supporters. They already have a relationship with United for Pride. They need to build up the relationships with other supporters. And then they need to employ somebody on a permanent basis who is prepared to network with the fans around the world. Whether you start with Al Walid and his supporters association in Saudi Arabia and go from there, but you need to reach out to everybody in New Zealand, Australia, Africa, Nigeria, China, wherever, and we need to start promoting the brand of Newcastle United globally. That's what we need to do, Ian, and that's what I would advise the club to do. Cody's great, but shelf life's 3 years, depending on what Wolves would want money-wise. Yeah, I would agree. Let's go back down there. We've literally no striker. Yeah, Callum Wilson's going to be out for 6 or 7 weeks, and obviously we've got, we've got ASM who's going to be fit now, but he's not really a striker. At all. Pablo, Lee, sorry. Been great tonight, guys. We have a great evening and all the very best for tomorrow. Shenanigans. Yeah, looking forward to having you on, Lee. And as I say, it's 2 o'clock start. So honestly, guys, jump on this tomorrow because just to hear Lee's story at 2:00 tomorrow. It'll be well worth tuning in. But then we'll have a bit chat about Newcastle United afterwards because he's got plenty of opinions on that. Dean says, what's your thoughts on Ernie Buick? I hear stories you would have given the likes of Ivoriel go back in the day, but rarely seems to get mentioned by anyone but yourself with North East guys. Ernie Buick's a Sunderland legend. Another hard man, so apologies to those who are football fans who don't like to hear us go on about true crime. But he was a top man, a doorman, an entrepreneur. He did go to prison, and ultimately he's led a fairly quiet life. Very good friends with Brian Cockrell. I would be very surprised at some point if Brian and Emma didn't get him on their podcast. And if he goes on there, I'd like to think that he would come on mine. But he is an unknown story, and I think that would make a fantastic book, as Billy Robinson's would in Gateshead. Billy's got a hell of a story to tell as well. Again, if you're not into the whole football thing, then into the true crime thing, apologies for that. But that's it would make a hell of a story, that. Wayne, please don't come up with stuff like this on the channel, because Anne's all right, Anne's good, and I'm going to have Anne on next week. We're going to be interviewing Ronan from the Let's Talk podcast. So we don't need that kind of comment about Anne. You've got to be kind in the chat to her, and we've got people who are admins in the chat now who will be watching closely next week. Paddy secretly likes Steve, just won't admit it. Yeah, I doubt it very much. He's gone on record as saying he hates us now. Do you regret the Tommy Robinson interview with the fallout? I stand by your principles to be true to your art. I stand by it, mate, because I did it for a reason. I had to do it. I was being set up by a journalist who I'd fallen out with on Twitter, who was going to put a story out. The rumours before the takeover were that I was going to be offered a job at Newcastle United Football Club as diversity officer, of all things. And a hack, a journalist who I'd fell out with over the Saudi takeover online, had written a story and filed it. Now, I knew somebody at that newspaper who contacted me and said, there's a story being written about you being a far-right sympathiser, and the photograph of you and Tommy Robinson is circulating, and this is going to go out there. Now, this photograph was taken in a pub in Wickham. An England game took place. One of my mates rang us, a good pal of mine, Darryl, and said, Tommy Robinson's in the area. He's looking for a bar to watch an England game. Is it okay if he comes and watches it in your neck of the woods? He's in Sunderland. He's done a demo. He doesn't really want to have a drink down here. I said, well, it's fine coming up here. I've got no problem with it. So he came up. He wasn't a pick of bother. It was him and four mates. Came in, watched the game. And ultimately, at the end of it, we got a photograph. Me, three of my mates got a photograph with him. And it was my mate who wanted the photograph. And I said, famous last words, I'll have the photograph, just don't stick it on social media. Which, to be fair, he didn't for 6 months. And then as soon as he stuck it on, somebody grabbed it. And for the last 2 or 3 years, it's been used quite openly and widely by people having a pop at us or trolling us, on Twitter especially, just saying Steve Wraith, Tommy Robinson's biggest fan, or he's far right, or he's this, he's that. They've used a photograph of me and David Cameron in exactly the same way. I had a photograph taken with David Cameron just before he was Prime Minister, calling us a Tory, a bald Tory nonce. That's a well-known phrase that's used on Twitter against me, and I just hit the block button. However, this particular story was going to be used by a journalist, and I just decided, with having a podcast and a big platform, that I could kill the story off by interviewing him. So I put out a request for questions. I used as many hard-hitting far-left questions as I could use on the show, and it was an hour-and-a-half interview. It's still available on my YouTube channel. I think it's hidden, not by me. I think YouTube have got it behind the screen, but you can still click on Steve Wraith and Tommy Robinson. If it doesn't come up on this channel, it certainly comes up somewhere else. Watch the interview. At the start of the interview, he tells everybody that the truth behind our meeting. At first, he has a laugh. He says, "Oh, you were at me wedding," but then he says, "No, we don't know each other." And I clearly state that I don't support his politics, and that that's it. And I felt it was the right thing to do and cleared my name. I also posed for a photograph with him at the end, and I deliberately did that because ultimately, for me, I thought the trolls would just use that photograph moving forward, and that's what's happened. Since then, constantly these photographs are circulated, and Steve Wraith, but at least I can explain it now. and people can see, and I've got Tommy Robinson on camera saying that we're not mates. And that is that, it's about clearing your name. So no, I do not regret it. I think it was the right thing to do. And it was a witch hunt on Twitter. And from my perspective, I did the right thing. I'm really, really pleased about, doing it. Now, I'm proud of the interview. I think it was a good interview. I don't think anybody else who's interviewed him has come away with a better interview. And I am blowing my own trumpet on that. Alex says, I've been to St. James's Park loads of time and I used to live in Shields. I'm really passionate. Fans, no doubt, but are a bit too aggressive, I thought. I accept my team's going to do naff all. I didn't think you did. Let's read that again. Really passionate fans, no doubt, but are a bit too aggressive. You can't put everybody in the same boat. You can't generalize, Alec. And that's in life in general. That's my opinion. You may be different, but ultimately, I don't think we're aggressive. I think we're a friendly bunch up here. Wayne Little says, come on, Steve, Paddy told me. Yeah, okay, mate. I'll let you off. It's clearly all right. Salt and vinegar, curry sauce and gravy and ketchup. McVicker, great film. Explains your bald head. Bald head? Bald. Never heard of a bald head. Is that with regards to racist? I've got no idea what on earth you're on about. See, I've already gone 15 minutes over. Told you I'd extend it a little bit. Is Tommy racist? I've been told he isn't, but I don't believe the two people I know that was in his gang. Alec, look, he's a controversial character. You need to read his book, Enemy of the State, to understand who he is. There's a lot of people will say Tommy's this and Tommy's that without actually reading about him. He's not called Tommy. In fact, he's called Tommy 10 names or whatever because he's got that many names. Stephen Yaxley, Stephen Lennon. I would say read his book, learn about him, learn about what he did, learn about how he did it and why he did it, and then come back and talk to us about it. Would I interview him again? I've been asked. Of course I would, because I personally think he is somebody who has got a point of view which at times needs to be questioned. And I think I just think I wouldn't change it for the world. I would certainly ask him questions again. I've probably got more questions to ask. White Creature says, I'm sick of hearing this racist stuff. I understand what racism is. Yeah, look, people use that whole situation to pile in on me on social media. People didn't like to see the success of the podcast. Some of it was Newcastle-based podcasts. Some of it was Sunderland fans. Some of it was people who just don't like me, and there's plenty of those. But ultimately, it was all, tied around the Saudi takeover as well. I was pro-Saudi takeover from the start, and there was a lot of people who were against it. So it was a culmination of things. What did I lose? Not a great deal, to be honest. I lost a bit of time replying to a few people and trying to justify why I'd interviewed him, which fell on deaf ears, but some people understood. Did I lose any sleep over it? No. Did it affect the podcast? No, it made it grow. And I just think by standing by my principles and standing by my argument and justifying why I did it, I proved to everybody why I did it. And yeah, I'm not afraid of doing it. Freedom of speech in this country. Well done, Steve, for standing your ground. Yeah, and I mean, look, I had to block a few people on Twitter. I hate blocking people. I hate blocking people on social media. But unfortunately, I haven't got time to have banter and arguments with loads of people. I try to help charitable causes. I try to reply to people who need something, a favour. I try to help people if they're short of a match ticket. And what I tend to do on social media is promote. And Twitter's probably my biggest following. And I'm always surprised how many I've got on there because people must go, oh, God, he's bloody promoting again. But that's how I run my business. You know what I mean? I sell books, I sell tickets for events, and I promote my podcast now, and that's it. So ultimately, and I see now, look, now I don't want people to start falling out in the chat. I can see a little bit of here and a little bit of there about racism, etc. The problem with it is, look, is Tommy Robinson racist? Some people will say 100% he is, and I can see some people saying he's not. Read the book, read his book, and then let's come back. And I did an hour's discussion on Tommy Robinson. I'd get people on. I think that would be a great conversation to have. I think ultimately there will be a time when he is back in the public spotlight for something, and I think that might be the time to do it. But let's see. who's this? M. Jim says, do you think Anne, I can't pronounce that name, but I know who you mean, who killed Harry Dunn, then ran back to America, will ever face a trial? What a great question. Yes, I do. I genuinely do. I think that will come to some kind of conclusion. I think what happens with these things, M. Jim, it all depends on the political ball that's getting kicked around at the time, and we see it already. There's a poor woman locked in a country for the 5 or 6 years. She's been locked away now from her husband and daughter. She's a political pawn in a political game, and that again is the same with this. People who run off. I think there's more chance of that happening than Prince Andrew being prosecuted. Put it that way. Mark says, I respect Steve Wraith a lot, who talks pure sense and honest as the day is long. Fact, Mark, thank you. I just try to be me. And, ultimately, that is it. Oh, no, Marco, you are joking me. Thoughts on Decker cancelling the live tonight? Very late in the day. Seems like a very guilty thing to do for a supposed innocent man. I do not believe it. I don't believe that's news to me, mate. Wow. Okay, well, we'll see. Was never a fan of Tommy, but there is a university talk on YouTube. He does that really well spoken. Yeah, that is that's the Oxford Union, which you have to be invited to talk at. That is available on YouTube. It's a good watch. It is a good watch. He's a good orator. People might say that's dangerous, being a good orator. Some of the best leaders have been great orators, and some of the worst leaders have been good orators. But again, it's well worth a watch. 100%. Keith says, great show. Thank you, mate. Yeah, look, I promised everybody before Christmas I would do this. And yeah. Troll says, dangerous to go into politics on shows. You should stay away from it possible. Yeah, don't talk about religion and politics is probably the best thing to say. Yes, I watched the university speech on YouTube, but that's not the same as defending the EDL. Yeah, again, this is the thing with Tommy, you see, or Stephen. He creates debate. And in this world that we live in, we've always had freedom of speech in this country. And I think that is the problem. And there's been so much. The EDL, if you read his book, the EDL was his biggest mistake. He should never have done that. He always knows that he shouldn't have done that. I think the fact that his background has been as a football hooligan, and the fact that he's been involved in so many controversial situations hasn't helped him either. I think that is the problem. But read his book. We're going to move off that. ADB says, gang canny with a booze tomorrow. It's not big or clever. Happy 2022. I haven't decided whether I'm going out. I'm not going out. I won't be going out tomorrow. I might go out New Year's Day, but I haven't decided where or what I'm going to do. Trolls, I give politics a wide berth. Yeah, I mean, I do as well. To be honest, I get called a Tory. The last 2 general elections, I voted Liberal. In every local election, I vote Labour now. So ultimately, I vote Labour because my Labour council's good. But in the national election, I tend to vote for the party that I think is going to do the best. But I can't vote for Labour at the minute, and I can't vote for the Tories at the minute because I think they're both as bad as each other. I think Labour's got a horrendous leader, and I just cannot stand Boris, I'm afraid. So, yeah, I voted Liberal. You can be eloquent as you like. You can't defend the EDL. Yeah, I would agree. All the best for the new year. Everyone, let's stay united. Yes. Where does it say it was cancelled? Yes, so there's controversy over this now. Hopefully it's not. Glad I'm not on any of these. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I would end up arguing with trolls. You would, mate. And it's honestly, it's a waste of negative. It's just negative energy, mate. You just don't need it in your life. Football, films, music, and books are among my favourite subjects. Yeah, I can understand why, mate. He has cancelled it? No way, says Julie. I'm hoping he hasn't. A lot of people saying he hasn't. Great show, all the best, fella, says Mark. Thank you, mate. Good to have you on. Any more questions? Can't see anything about Decker cancelling it. It's still advertised. Okay. Yano says, ultimately, Steve, you created a channel to be proud of. Really, the only failure you have had over the last 18 months is your failure to recognise Brazilian talent as quick as me. You see, Yano, you've always been somebody, though, who's been very blunt on here. Always straight to the point, blunt. But that's the beauty of it. And I think that's why the channel's probably been a success, because we don't cancel out people on here. We'll let people have their say. And I try not to, I just try not to diss people, you know what I mean? And I'm glad to say that the people who come on the show are exactly the same. And it's just been great. We have created a community. And I think the one thing the trolls did was, you know, they called us a cult and they called me the cult leader. And I think, you know, the fact that we recognized it, NUFC Matters cult leader, and we've got a great team behind us, as I say, with John and Q-Tech, you know, coming up with t-shirts, cups and t-shirts and whatever. I just genuinely think that we created something special. And the fact that I've met so many of the people off here now is even better. You know what I mean? The fact that we've gone out, we've done events. Christmas one was great. Over 180 of us there. It's just been great. And, you know, long may it continue, but, you know, long may we, you know, come up with different ideas and you know, have different people on as well. That's the whole point of the show. It's a community now and, you know, everybody enjoys it. And it's just great that it's continued after lockdown. Alex says, I wasn't going to watch the Decker thing anyway. I've just argued, apparently, I'm Decker's #1 fan, Art from the Equalizer, but I just believe in law doing their job, not YouTube viewers. That's a great point, Alec, because where do you draw the line on all of the stuff that's going on? You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful that you don't jeopardize a potential court case with the stuff that you're saying on YouTube. And that is a really good point. So hopefully people will take that into consideration. Julie says he's controversial, but he isn't racist. In my opinion, he visited Israel and supports us so far. He isn't racist at all, just misunderstood. Okay, it's another view on Tommy. We never stop learning, and I'm happy, says Trolls. No wrong with the balls, man. I'm in the club as well. Who cares? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a bald napper. Decker Premier is not cancelled, thank God. Liberal. Yeah, just so I didn't waste my vote, mate. I hate wasting a vote. Vote Green, Steve. Julie, I may well do, because I can't see these two main parties getting any better. That's for certain. If you could interview anyone in the world you haven't already, who would it be? Okay, from an acting point of view, I'd love to interview Robert De Niro. Purely because I think he's a fantastic actor. He's been in some of the best films ever, and I'd love to interview him. If it was a director, I'd love to interview Guy Ritchie. If it was a footballer, it's a tough one because I've interviewed a lot of them on stage, not necessarily on the podcast channel. But if I had to pick one footballer to interview now, it would probably be Pelé, because he's one of the best, and he is an absolute legend. Gangster-wise, criminal-wise, Kenny Noy, and I've known Kenny for a few years, but you know, he's a very reclusive character now. I would love to interview Kenny. I think that would be great. I think it would be a big hit. I think a lot of people would be interested in it. But I would like to interview him. From a music point of view, I've met him, but I'd love to interview him. John Lydon, Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols. So I hope that answers that question. People are saying in the chat he hasn't cancelled, so it's not cancelled. It mustn't be cancelled. Don't vote me, but the Tories do a good job in Pudsey. It's a nice place to live under them. Okay. Tom Dixon, any Manchester United team: De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Varney, Maguire, Shaw, Fred, McTominay, Van de Beek, Sancho, Ronaldo, and Cavani. Cavani deserved a start, 100%. I read a thing today saying people will come to Newcastle because of the film Goal. Yeah, I mean there was Goal 1 and Goal 2. Was there a Goal 3? Yeah, I mean it was a decent film. But I'm not sure that's the reason people come to Newcastle. I don't think they come for Geordie Shore either, mind some stag do's, mate. Rachel Lilly says my dad's comment about being bald, grass never grows on a busy street. I tell him it's a 4-lane motorway now. Great show as always, Steve. Hope Decker's not cancelling. Thanks, mate. Yeah, I hope he's not too. Gives everybody something to talk about. It wasn't a cult, says Ian. Oh, right. Okay. Well, I kind of change it now. Great show as always. Thank you, mate. As a Liverpool fan, Origi and Nat Phillips would be good signings for you. Phillips is a solid centre-back and Origi will score goals if you get him service. Tune 2020, thanks again, mate, for the donation. That's very kind of you. A fantastic community. You're right there, Donald. It's been great, man. Honestly, the chat's fantastic. I love the chat. There's so many great people in the chat. And I watch a lot of podcasts, and I've got to be honest. I feel, that a lot more should do open, like an open chat like this. We've got a lovely Masons club. Christ, don't tell Paddy. All hail the cult leader. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. Love the cult. I haven't got a mug or a t-shirt though. Paul, easy way to remedy it. Get yourself on there on your phone. Put it over that. and join the cult. Membership is £25. It's a one-off fee. And what do you get for your £25? Well, I'll show you. You get a nice cup, a nice pen, a nice scarf, a nice bag, and your membership card, and you get entered into a monthly draw. And last month's prize was a PlayStation 5 and accessories. So it's well worth joining. One-off fee. So there you go. Nobody called you a baldy cult, says he. I love this cult community of ours, says Rachel. You had any more calls from Mr. Bronson? Robert, I have. Because his parole hearing is imminent, I've got to be very careful, mate. I don't want him to get a phone ban. So I am just going to ultimately wait, bide your time. But yes, I have. There's a lot there, mate. There's a lot there. Most absurd Newcastle rumour you've ever heard or read, Steve? That was, let's think. What was the name of the player? Oh, God. Right. There was a player who played for Brazil called Santos. Was it Santos? Is that the right name? It was in the 80s. Let's go with Santos. And it was in the 80s. We got linked with this player. And it was Alan Oliver who wrote the story in the Chronicle. And he put it out there. And there was no substance in it at all. You know, the club said it was rubbish. The player's agent said it was rubbish. The player said it was rubbish. Turned out the story. And of course, there's a big page headline on the back of the Chronicle. Everyone was excited. And ultimately, it turned out that Alan Oliver had been out for a drink and he'd overheard some students talking in a bar about Santos coming to Newcastle. And of course, it was a bloody student band, wasn't it? So that's probably the most absurd Newcastle United rumour that I've heard. Alert, alert, 19 clubs are going into meltdown because we're going to send a request to postpone the Southampton match. Yeah. A friendly cult, says Donald. We are. Steve, mate, I personally love the true crime stuff. I've not seen your content yet, but I've seen a fair few. Jamie English, I've seen your interview and I'm looking forward to the Sears film. Thanks, mate. Me too. Looking forward to that taken. That was Socrates. That was it, Donald. Socrates. That was the name of the band. Socrates. But thanks, Jack. Thanks for that. Blue Cheese, Steve Wraith. I used to think you were a pillock, but you're actually a sound bloke, even if you're a Geordie. Blue Cheese, thank you very much, mate. James English, podcasts are great, says Donald. Yeah, I mean, I did like the awards last night, and I couldn't separate Sean and James. They're both friends of mine, and to be honest, I love them both. As podcasters, some great stuff on there. James has just done a brilliant one with Stephen Lawrence's brother, the young lad who was stabbed to death 30 years ago. It's well worth listening to. Roberto Baggio, I must be referring to the rumours of Newcastle. Yeah, I seen that one. I remember that one. Got to run all this over. Ran quite a bit. Take care. Yeah, I'm going to have to stop shortly because I'm going on to Paul Ellis's podcast. Have you seen Wrath of Man yet? Good film. Don't look up. Powerful message. Yeah, it's good. It is a good film. Seen it. Looking forward to more interviews you're doing. Going to be a good year next year. Thanks, Julie. That's not the United team, so I don't know why anybody put that up. If it wasn't what about having kids and having Mistress Kaz be on? When you Google her, I was shocked. Why have her on? You must have done the same. Yeah, because I was asked by Sean Atwood, if I would entertain them because they wanted to put right the wrong that they felt had been taking place on the Decker Heggie podcast. So I was only too happy to have them on, and I thought ultimately, they gave a decent account of themselves. That's why. All of the Rockies have been on ITV2 or something this week, no matter how many times I've seen it. Can't help getting embroiled in it. I'm like that with Jaws. Whenever Jaws comes on, signed Phil Jones. No thanks. Great show. Do you think Decker's docs will be doctored, Steve? That's the rumor, isn't it? I don't know, mate. I don't know. I'm sick of the whole thing, to be perfectly honest, but I will tune in and we'll find out. And I'll be doing Paul's podcast in less than half an hour now. Paul Ellis, subscribe to him, get on there. Awards were great. Thank you, Vanda. Too many just want the super chat money now. Think you grow an audience far more by interacting like this. Yeah, listen, I don't beg. If people want to make a donation, I really appreciate it. And that's great. I see a few podcasters begging for money. I don't do that. And all my content's free. I really thank my sponsors. I thanked them earlier on. My sponsors keep us going. I get paid off YouTube, which is nice. But yeah, it's all about making content. And I do 7 shows a week. I take out the staff, if you like. You know, I treated everybody. Everyone's had a great drink or something to eat or whatever, and you know, everyone's been great this year, and that's the way to be. It's about keeping everybody happy, but keeping you lot happy because you enjoy the content, and that's what it's all about. Chris just says, send the cult t-shirt out, John, please. Coming up the last, let's do 5 more minutes. Decker will come on tonight with DBS that's been altered. Be no Acro or Scottish Files. People won't touch Decker now anyway. Yeah, the Scottish stuff is, again, something which I don't know anything about. But people keep going on about it. My weekend lass will think I went crazy though, Steve. Cheers though, mate. Does the cult leader deliver to Cyprus? Thanks to Brexit, it would need to be CN22 on it. John, do you deliver to Cyprus? Steve, do you know Mistress Casby you had on? Have you Googled it as a father to kids? Rick, look, having somebody on a podcast and speaking to her about domestic abuse, which is what that podcast was about, is a podcast with somebody on there. I haven't invited her into the home. I haven't been out with her and sat over, you know, a dinner table and had a meal with her and then brought her back to meet the missus and the kids. It's a lot different, mate. Getting someone on a podcast. And if you're going to start going down that route, you look at the other people I've had on. I've had Decker Heggie on my podcast. Look what he's been accused of. People say you do background checks and this, that, and the other. I tend to take people who've been on other podcasts. But I didn't do any background checks into her, but I was happy to have her on because of the reason I've given. So I hope that answers the question. Watched your dream team today, says Barry. Great picks. Thanks, mate. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Worldwide delivery is $9.99, says John. Thank you for that. We had a different show and really enjoyed it. Thanks to you. No problem, Rachel. Looking forward to tomorrow. Tune in 2 o'clock. You'll love tomorrow if you can. 2 o'clock tomorrow. I know it's New Year's Eve, but tune in tomorrow. And then obviously we've got the we've got the Three Amigos as well. Floyd Mayweather buying Newcastle was a bit of a stretch. Yeah, Jersey Mag. I wound the media up with that one, didn't I? That was a classic. Watch the Floyd Mayweather show where I do it. It's in the playlist, Floyd Mayweather playlist. Any plans to do more podcasts with Charlie Salvador? Yes, 100%. Once we know what is happening with his parole, and we know it's been put back to September now, I don't want to jeopardize his phone calls by putting anything more out at this moment in time. Lemon, hot water, and organic apple cider vinegar every morning. Rachel, be fit as a fiddle. That's a bit of medical advice there. Regardless of tonight, is it just me who would rather see Decker versus Dean now? I kind of want to see if Dean is all talk. We all know Gary is legit. Yeah, he offered to fight him, didn't he? Well, didn't he? He said he's not gonna win. He's not gonna draw. He's gonna get mullered. So yeah, I just don't think we'll see. I don't think we'll see Decker after this week. I think if this paperwork gets mullered again, I just think he'll take time off. I really don't see how this can all change, but I could be wrong. But yeah, you know, the fights that they're organising, the 3D fight night in March the 19th, I think should be interesting. Seems to be a few podcasters going, living in London against fighting trolls should be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Living in London says he's never had a fight in his life and he's never boxed, but he seems to be taking it rather easily. And I think he's going in for a bare knuckle. Bizarre. Rather him than me, like. I certainly won't be putting on any gloves or getting into the ring, that's for certain. Okay, I've got to go and do Paul Ellis's podcast. Get onto his channel, subscribe. I'll be on there at 8 o'clock, 8 till 9, and then we'll all be tuning in to see what Decker's got to offer. Thanks for joining us tonight. Been an absolute pleasure answering all your questions. Thanks for so many diverse questions. I'll be back 2 till 3 tomorrow with Lee Davies' cracking story. Take care. Good night. God bless. And if those of you who don't tune in tomorrow, have a great 2022.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's